My name is Elona Prroj, and I come from the south of Albania. I gave my life to Jesus when I was 12. For us, being for about 50 years under communism without knowing God and even without mentioning the name of God, the first time I heard the gospel, I gave my life to Jesus and my family too. As I said, I come from the south of Albania, and I fell in love with one of the best guys in the north of Albania when I was really young. I was 16 when I fell in love with my husband, and we got married, and God blessed us with Gabriel and Sarah. That today they are 18 and Sarah is 15. I come from another part of Albania. I didn't know so much the context of this city. The moment I went to my father and asking and saying to him that I'm going to get married with my husband, so the first thing that my father said to me, it was like, what about blood feud? And this was the first time I was hearing about the phenomenon. But while we were serving God here, we were facing and meeting so many families that they were part of the blood feud. And before I go further to the history and to my testimony, I want to explain just a little bit what is blood feud all about. So this is a phenomenon that is happening only in the north of Albania. It's about 500 years old. Since the Turks came to conquer our land, they forced people to change their religion from Christian to Muslim. And most of people did, and this is why Albania is a Muslim country today. So it's about more than 65% is a Muslim country. But in the north of Albania, there were these Catholic community people that they were not obeying the Turks and they didn't want to change religion, but they couldn't stay in the cities. So they went into the mountains, they were hiding there, and they created their own communities, and also they made their own laws that is called the Kanun of Lek Dukagjini. So the Kanun is a set of laws and is a kind of parallel of the constitution, and it rules every area of life. It's not just about blood feud, but only one part of the Kanun is a part of the blood revenge. That it is based in Leviticus in the Old Testament, that it says an eye for an eye and blood for blood and tooth for tooth. So what does that mean literally in our context and our culture is that if a man of a family will be killed, all the men of the family of the murderer has to be present in the house because any one of them can be the target of revenge. In the beginning, I couldn't believe the context. I couldn't believe it was like something so ancient. And it was like, there is not a reasoning system in this kind of Kanun today. If we have a constitution, if we have a law, we have a justice system, so this is something really old. And but it was one time that there was a woman that came to the church and she begged for food. Because one of the characteristics of these families is that they are really poor. You know, the families, the men cannot go out to work. And it's not just the men of the close family to the murder, but it goes on to 6 generations, and it can go on with hundreds of years, you know. And it is, the idea behind it is like blood must be washed with blood. Then in 2005, blood feud knocked at my door. And it was like the uncle of my husband. In an arguing, he killed a man in his restaurant. The first moment when this happened, 25 men of my husband's family, including my son Gabriel, at that time he was 4 years old, they had to be present in the house because of what the uncle of my husband did. And while the men of the house were staying present in the house, you know, we were trying to find reconciliation and to send people to mediate about resolving the conflict. But there was no way. You know, and this is like when you come to a point that you don't have anything to do. So for 4 years, my husband stood present in the house. And being a pastor of the church, this was beyond words difficult. And after 4 years, we heard from God that we needed to move from this place. We went in England because we got a word from Genesis 28:15. God says to James that I will protect you wherever you go, but I will bring you back to fulfill the calling I have for you. So for us it was like, okay, if God is going to protect us wherever you go, this is time to go. So we went to England with the idea that we will stay there like 2 years. And we started like a normal life after 4 years being imprisoned in the house. But it was only after 2 months that while my husband was praying, he came to me and he said, I believe God is calling us to go home because this is the time to fulfill the calling. I was so much concentrated in the first part of the verse God gave to us. I will protect you wherever you go. But I was not so much interested about bringing you back to fulfill the calling I have for you. And I started to pray, and also I started to read stories. How can you protect someone that is a target of revenge? And one of the stories I read, it was like if he will be accompanied by his children or wife, they will never kill him, because if they will witness the crime, they will never forgive. So for 1 year, every day we were running and serving God in the city. And when different people were stopping my husband in the street, like other pastors, that I found this out only later on, they were asking him like, what are you doing outside? Are you crazy? You should stay in the house, because this was breaking all the taboos. You know, people in Bloodfield, they don't go out. And my husband would say, I'm serving God, and if God says this is time to go home, I will just go home. And he was so confident about eternity, that he was living this life with the perspective of eternity. And we were running for 1 year after my husband, until one day that it was a Friday and it was his day off, that he will prepare his sermon about Sunday. And so he said to me, I'm just popping in the church just for a short time, you don't come, and I will take kids from school and I will be back. So the time for him to come home came, and I was trying to ring and I didn't have any answer. But then there were so many people that were ringing from the church, and they were asking, where is the pastor? And I said, he's taking kids from school. He's in the church taking kids from school. I went out to search for him for about 2 hours, until I found out that while he was coming out of the church, the brother of the first victim that his uncle killed was waiting for him and shot him 8 times and sent him to be with the Lord. So I don't want to go to the details, because I want that this testimony to not be a terrible story and a shock for people. I don't want that people that listen to this will be focused to the details. I want to be focused in the presence of God in the valley of death. Now, I'm not telling that it was easy. I'm not telling that it is easy today, even now that I'm sharing this, but I'm saying that there is power in the name of Jesus, even when it is difficult, even in the middle of storm. While I was complaining, I said, God, why? God, if I would be there, the story will be totally different story. And God said to me and whispered to me and said, I was there. I was there, not just present, but I was there active. And Jesus is the answer. And you know, sometimes as people, we have troubles because we don't allow God to be God over all our ways. You know, what I've learned in all my situation, in my grieving process, it is that we are not called to understand, we are called to obey God. You know, we are not called to say, why God? We are called to say, yes, God. And when we say, yes, Lord, and we obey, Lord, our God, then our whys are so unimportant. They are left behind, so far away. And if you will ask to me today, do you know why? I will say, I don't know, but I don't want to know, because I can see. I can see that even from death, God can bring life. And whatever we are doing today with all the dentists and the doctors from Brazil, it is a part of that life that has won over death. It is a part of that plan of God and that purpose of God that Only God knows why.